Well, this is interesting. This is coming out of Salt Lake City. The sewers are now emitting mysterious music in people's homes. Really? Can you imagine? You're in the restroom. You're sitting down. You're reading your People's magazine. Next thing you know, you hear "Stairway to Heaven" just coming from the sewage. That is frightening. Well, residents of downtown Salt Lake City have now reported just that, hearing strange music coming from the sewers, sparking some to speculate that the sound may be a sign of extraterrestrial origins. They're saying it's eerie, but it was also beautiful. Rosemary Olson says, a musician and a downtown resident who loves sewer music. Well, forget sewer snakes now. Now you have a sewer, house band that seems to be playing every time that you happen to be near a sewage pipeline. Olson also told the outlet she posted about the noise on the neighborhood app. Oh, I thought that was your band practicing. It was supposed to be in the minor seventh. I guess you blew it. Blew it out of where, we asked. Cleared up by the Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities, who said that the sound was coming from the sewer line rapid assessment tool, or a sewer rat. Well, what the hell does that mean? So it came from what? A transistor radio that fell in the sewage? Master Splinter is now playing a Fender guitar. The sewer rat system sends tones from one end of the maintenance hole to another, and change in the volume indicates that there is a blockage or cleaning in the piping. One transmitter will emit the tone, and the receiver will listen for the tone at the other side of the pipe. Well, the receiver, as it listens for this tone, it comes through, it will all assign a score of okay, who cares? The point is, the way they explain it to me, it's just unacceptable. A very whimsical and musical sewage rat, and just a very talented one at that, I suppose.
Reconcile it in many ways. It's hard to reconcile because I see so much hypocrisy in terms of when we say America first, for whatever reason, we have this magic carve out, and you cannot pretend that that's not because AIPAC spends $100 million in our election. And this gets back to what we were talking about, whether it's Big Pharma, whether it's Israel, everyone's for sale in DC. And so I have been very disappointed with Trump on his perspectives about Gaza. I have been disappointed, by the way, he's the last person I'm disappointed with, because I've been disappointed, as we saw all last year, with the conservatives, people that say they're Christians, who are condoning this on the basis of what? Like, you're saying, oh, well, they're Muslims, so who cares? And that gets into our programming, which I've spoken about in my podcast, of this 9/11 programming, where we just don't see Muslims as like human life. And to me, to speak about Gaza and talking about casinos and hotels, and these people just lost their entire families. It's so far removed from humanity. And obviously I paid a very heavy price for saying that last year, but I don't care, because I am truly someone whose values have never been up for sale. Like, I don't care. I will burn everything to the ground and rebuild it. I have to be able to sleep at night, and to see those Palestinian children, and the images are seared into my brain.
Israel was created as the instrument to bring about the Battle of Armageddon and the fulfillment of prophecies, where nuclear weapons will be used so that the American citizens and the other people in the world will get down on their knees and beg for no more war. They're going to be told the only way we can guarantee no more war is if we destroy the sovereignty of nations and we come together as one humanity and one world government. And I'm telling you, unless the American people wake up and stop the Battle of Armageddon and become reality.
That we're going to experience what we've never imagined.
Give me a shelter.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the number one late night show, World at War. I am Dean Ryan, and I just spilt water all over myself, literally, seconds ago. And could have died of electrical shock. And anyways, better now. And I'm going to have to explain this later to the owner of the TV studios here. But we have a big show here, as tonight's episode is International Chaos. International Chaos. More like the International House of Chaos, because it seems to be brewing no matter which side of the country or the world you tend to reside in. We're going to be getting into a whole host of things. And how about Candace Owens right there, who is really laying her truth. And a lot of people who are in the MAGA movement are saying, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? You have now we have a new Middle East war that is underway in Yemen. As all the fabled enemies that we have funded are, they're striking us. Who would have thought that? So we're going to be talking about that as well. And also on the lighter side of things, we're going to get into the Trump and Putin phone call that experts who are familiar with the matter are saying went very well, unquote. We'll talk about that. Plus, some things you need to know about going to the ATM and the surveillance that is now underway, not necessarily to see if a cat burglar or some kind of mugger is behind you, but to see and calculate how much money you're taking out of the ATM, which the red button gets pushed when you hit a certain amount. Plus, Elon Musk is under heavy attack and assault. Yes, he is, by and another thing, these judiciary, all these judges are now playing ball, and now they're striking him down, saying he violated the Constitution. So we'll look into just why this dismantling of USAID needs to reverse itself, as now there's a major effort to get the slush fund of the CIA back at play. What do you say? And what is Trump doing about it? And plus the deportations is now trying to get reversed too. So there's a lot of legal warfare here. Lawfare, they call it. We'll be getting into that. And plus the talk of the town, you might have heard already. If you haven't, well, then you might be like me, living under a rock willfully. The JFK files have now been released. Jim Fetzer is going to be joining us here tonight as we go skulking around all of the new discoveries, and just to see, was there a second shooter? Were there three shooters? And who is involved? And are there any missing classified documents that are not being allowed to come to fold? So we'll talk about that, plus major international news of the ceasefires. One ceasefire begins with Russia and the other one ends over there in Gaza. We'll talk about just exactly what the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is planning on doing with the IDF. And it's just unbelievable stuff here. Before we get started, we are broadcasting live on Facebook over there at The Real Dean Ryan. Yes, we are. Hopefully you can see me, probably not. We're also broadcasting live on YouTube over there at the Graveyard called Dean Ryan TV. And last but not least, certainly Rumble. Okay, let's get started with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods. Yes, let's get to it, shall we? Well, there's a lot of phone calls, people taking life, and that's what presidents do. And sometimes they turn out well and sometimes not. Obviously, who remembers? And obviously you do. The Zelensky incident. Well, this one's a little different now, as peace, not in the Middle East, but Russia, is just a kiss away, to quote Mick Jagger, as now this is just in. Trump and Putin now say the phone call went very well, exclamation, very well. And the world has become a much safer place today. Yes, it has. What are we talking about? Well, today was the day that Trump and Putin had a wonderful phone call regarding the war in Ukraine, dividing up Ukrainian assets and steps to attain a ceasefire that leads to a peace deal. Yeah, leads to a peace deal. I mean, everything people have been waiting for, this should have never happened. The whole kit and caboodle. Continuing now. Well, yes, here's a quote now from the AP. They said that the White House and Kremlin did not offer any immediate details about the substance of the conversation, but both have confirmed that the call has ended well. Well, a Russian source with knowledge of the matter about the call, he told CNN that the conversation went very well. And during the White House, in the call, including the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Dan Scavino, said the conversation was going great. So this is just a lot of excitement over there. Well, under the leadership now of President Putin and Trump, the world has become a much safer place, historic and epic. This is coming from both parties, especially Dmitriev Kirill over there, part of Putin's envoy. Both countries have expressed a hopeful expectation of peace prior to the call. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Monday that the peaceful resolution to the Ukrainian war has never been closer, and Putin's foreign policy aide said just recently today that he's not lost hope at all. So this is, let me tell you, the ramifications of this is going to send shockwaves beyond the DC Beltway. I mean, Russia should literally be the sister country of the U.S. This is historic, and now wait for the big trade deal. I believe that's going to be coming next. Well, next story here, as many people have been hearing about this, DOGE, yes. What a setback the following is here now, as DOGE is now dismantling the AID. Well, now a judge is dismantling DOGE. You don't say. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. A judge finds Elon Musk's role in dismantling USAID agency over there is likely violating the Constitution. Likely. Well, it appears to be the first time a federal judge has acted to constrain Elon Musk, a top advisor to President Trump. The judge also ordered agency functions be partially restored through the relief could be temporary. Yeah, this federal judge, he said that the efforts by Elon Musk and his team to permanently shutter the United States Agency for International Development likely violated the Constitution in multiple ways. So many, I can't even name them, he says, and has robbed Congress of its authority to oversee the dissolution of an agency it created. Well, the ruling by Judge Theodore D. Schwang of the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland over there, go figure, will appear to be the first time a judge has moved to rein in Mr. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. Now, it was based on the finding that Mr. Musk has acted as an officer of the United States without being properly appointed to that role by President Trump. It's also worth noting Judge Schwang wrote that the group of unnamed aid workers who had sued to stop the demolition of USAID and its programs were likely to succeed in the lawsuit. We agreed that their contention that Elon's rapid assertion of the power over executive agencies was likely in the violation. Well, we know it's likely. We know that's your opinion of it, Mr. Schwang. So, all these actions are being taken, and there's not a damn thing that anyone's going to be doing. But let me continue just a little longer here. There's that one for you. Okay, getting back to business here with some real deal headlines. Now, as I was sharing with you, you go to the ATM. Everybody goes to the ATM all the time. Everybody goes to the bank, but not anybody, nor does anybody ever think that they're being monitored on just exactly how much money they're being taken out when it's just a few hundred? Or are they? Well, hold the phone here. Well, now they're saying this is just coming out today that taking out $200 of an ATM should not trigger federal financial surveillance, but it does. It does. That's right. One of President Donald Trump's day one executive orders designated, quote, certain international cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, a classification that, according to the State Department, plays a critical role in our fight against terrorism, they say, is an effective means of curtailing support for terrorist activities and pressuring groups to get out of the terrorism business. I guess crime really doesn't pay, after all. To that end, the United States Department of Treasury Financial Crimes Enforcement announced a new rule cracking down on cash transactions this week. Absolutely. But only in certain geographical regions. No matter the administration's intent to target cartels, and we have to remember, this always comes back on the American people. The Patriot Act came back on us. The tactics of war in the Iraq War, knee on the neck. If it didn't come from the IDF handbook, it came from the Iraq War. So it's all being tested in the Middle East, third world countries, then brought home. Just for your information. Well, so they're monitoring this now, and certain geographical regions as they want to target cartels. And what could go wrong? What could happen? It's very dicey. Continuing now. Now, finally, as I was saying, there's now a judge, another activist judge, that is now requesting for all the terrorists that were deported. They want, this particular judge wants all their information, and they want to reverse all these guys and bring them back. And as you can imagine, this is really setting a precedent in Washington, D.C., especially in the Trump administration. Check this out, and Jim Fetzer's on deck. We'll get his take after.
President Trump is calling for the impeachment of federal judge James Boasberg, who temporarily blocked deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members Saturday night. The planes full of migrants did not turn back as the judge ordered.
We removed terrorists. That should be a celebration.
That was a bad group of, as I say, operators.
Judge Boasberg now demanding the Justice Department provide additional information about why Trump officials refused to comply with his order. In response, the president posted, quote, this radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who was sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, was not elected president. He went on to say, this judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached. Hours later, Chief Justice John Roberts issued a rebuke of the sentiment. Without naming the president specifically, Roberts wrote, quote, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. Judge Boasberg was appointed to Washington, D.C.'s Superior Court by Republican President George W. Bush in 2002, before President Obama nominated him to D.C.'s District Court in 2010. Boasberg was unanimously confirmed by the Senate in 2011. Some Democrats see the president's war with the judicial branch as a threat to democracy and warn it won't stop with deporting allegedly violent migrants.
People say, well, that's not me. If we get rid of rule of law, the 248-year tradition in America, this democracy is over. If they don't, and we go to the Supreme Court and it is defied, democracy is at real risk, and there will have to be extraordinary action taken.
Extraordinary action taken. What does he mean by that? In the wake of all this JFK fiasco going on, well, to speak a little bit about this and what extraordinary action truly means is a man who's quite extraordinary himself and takes extraordinary actions daily. And that's just driving out of the neighborhood. The one, the only RDM political analyst, Jim Fetzer. Jim, welcome to the extraordinary world at war here. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dean. Just to comment on a couple of your stories. And as far as the judge is concerned, I think there's a violation here of separation of powers. The president has virtually unlimited authority into how he conducts the executive branch. I'm not sure how this case came before this judge, but he's not entitled to simply impose his opinion about action by the president. So I think that may well be ill-fated. Certainly the question about, Musk's position within the government is one that can be handled by making an appropriate appointment. So I doubt that's going to prove to be a definitive problem. Certainly what he's doing has been applauded by the American people in cleaning up the government on such a massive scale. I'm very impressed, in fact, with what DOGE has been doing. As far as the conversation between Putin and Trump, 2-hour conversation, I believe this was an opportunity for Putin to make very clear to Trump that Russia has won the war, that Russia is not going to surrender any of the territories it's taken, that Ukraine cannot become a member of NATO now or ever, that he wants a demilitarization of Ukraine and the denazification, which may be the most difficult part. They seem to have agreed on the following. Trump will stop sending weapons and intelligence to Ukraine in return for Putin ceasing attacks on energy sources and the infrastructure. As far as I'm concerned, that's a win-win for the Vlad.
Yes, it is. Vlad is he definitely got what he bargained for. Jim, you totally nailed it right there. Putin wants to stop all U.S. arms shipment to Ukraine as a part of the truce. He's definitely playing the art of the deal. Jim, I know we're going to come back for the JFK stuff, and I don't want to get to it prematurely. But, speaking of this, and I want to talk about this alliance with Russia now, because Trump has also agreed to recognize Crimea as a territory of Russia, which I think is, just common sense. But also, I want to talk about what has now taken place over the weekend with Yemen and some U.S. airstrikes that have really angered some people. And, why this is at behest of Israel. I got that part. But if we strike Iran at behest of Israel, Iran has an alliance not with just China, that's a quiet one, but also Russia. What is that going to do with Russian-U.S. relations? Because that might be a red line that is not being talked about, or is it?
That's an excellent point, Dean. Now, this attack on Yemen, where Trump has generalized and said that if Yemen continues to attack Israeli shipping, for example, which it's doing under the laws of war, Yemen is the only country to have declared war on Israel. It can properly interdict Israeli shipping, any ships bringing arms or supplies to Israel. That's all in accordance with international law. Trump has made, in my opinion, the absurd generalization that if the Houthis continue to attack the shipping, he's going to hold Iran responsible. And he's even hinted at a U.S. attack upon Iran. Your point enters the scene very well taken, Dean, because Russia and Iran have a very strong alliance. They've been providing each other with weapons that the other party have developed but didn't have. It's working very successfully. The president of Iran has been so frustrated by Trump. He said, do whatever the hell you want to do. He said, we're prepared for it. And I guarantee you that if the United States attacks Iran, Israel will be obliterated. Plus all the U.S. bases in the Middle East and even more, Dean. It's not going to work out happily.
I want to expand on your thoughts with this, and I think this report from the region over there, this coming out of France 24, kind of exfoliates what you're discussing, and I want to harp on that a bit more. Let's watch about a minute of this. I think this will help viewers have a visualization of the perspective.
President Trump's fresh wave of airstrikes in Yemen's Houthi rebel-held areas killed at least 31 people and wounded over 100, according to the Houthi-run health ministry's latest statistics, who also say that most of the casualties were children and women. This marks the biggest U.S. military operation in the Middle East since Trump took office, in response to Houthis threatening to resume attacks on Israeli vessels sailing off Yemen. A U.S. official said this was the beginning of airstrikes on Houthi targets that are expected to continue. And on his Truth Social, Donald Trump also warned Iran, the Houthis' main backer, that it needs to immediately halt support for the group, saying America will hold Iran fully accountable for any of their actions. Let's take a listen to Iran's reaction.
The Islamic Republic has no role in setting the national or operational policies of any part of the resistance front, including the Houthi movement. Ansar Allah of Yemen. We will respond to any threat, if it becomes actual, with a tough, decisive and devastating response.
Earlier we spoke to our Tehran correspondent.
There you have it, Jim. They're speaking. They're ready for war. Can you tell me that this may be part of the art of the deal, or are we just destined for World War III no matter what? Because, you know, that's what Bill Cooper was saying. The whole purpose of Israel was to set up this third world war, which it's now playing out to his, premonition there.
I've been completely disillusioned by the thuggish, brutal way Trump has been conducting foreign affairs on behalf of the United States. He talks about in Ukraine bringing an end so that innocent men, women, and children aren't killed. But he doesn't talk about innocent men, women, and children in Yemen that he's killing. He doesn't talk about the innocent men, women, and children in Gaza that Israel is slaughtering now with the explicit support of the United States. This, in my opinion, represents a degree of incoherence as is unacceptable in American foreign policy. I have been a very severe critic of what he's been doing of late in this regard.
It truly is quite stunning. Jim, real quick, before we go to another segment here, did you want to comment on this? The judge who is now asking for the deportation records of the gang that was shipped out, for what purpose? Is that even legal? And also, do you think that's going to happen, that they're going to have them come back? And does DOGE still have a future? Because we are fighting embedded judges who've been there for generations, and they're blocking our prosperity, are they not?
Yeah. This is a rearguard action by the Democrats, as I see it, to try to frustrate all the action Trump has been taking that have been so warmly received by the American people. He's had astronomical ratings in the polls of late because of DOGE, because of the deportations, because of finding and exposing all this corruption in government. Now, I'm sorry to say, because of the catastrophic ways handling relations between Iran, Yemen, and Gaza, I think it's going to fall precipitously. I've had a report, for example, that virtually overnight, a community that had Trump signs up since 2016, Dean, they've all been taken down. There's nary one to be found today.
Wow. And, we haven't spoken in a few days now. The whole last night, which I do apologize for the terrible audio on last night's episode. I had no idea, but the whole talk of the town, just yesterday, Jim, was the whole auto pen scandal by Biden. And, I can see this as the black swan moment, because last week was revealing that the White House press room during the whole Biden administration was fake, and the Oval Office was fake. We knew that a long time ago. They're revealing that more and more. Now they're revealing that he didn't sign these executive orders. Jim, where's this leading up to? Because my premonition was it's leading off to the pulling off of the mask. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, literally the pulling off of the mask. I think this is an intermediate stage, Dean, where they're exposing chicanery in the Biden administration leading up to the realization that we've had an imposter president for 4 years, where the real Joe Biden appears to have died in 2017. He had a different manner of speaking. He had a different style. He had a different handwriting. He had a different shape and size of head. I believe the mask is coming off.
Yeah, yes, it is. And the mask is certainly coming off. All the people who want to bring back USAID. I mean, on the positive side, Jim, and before we move on here, is this really highlights the people who are kind of what you would say in the bag, in the pocket of the deep state, no matter which way you slice it. All right, Jim Fetzer, thank you. We'll see you shortly here in another segment, as now we have to get ready for, yes, that's right, real deal politics. Real deal politics. Absolutely. Well, to stay and stick with the trend of very bad judges with very bad judgment, well, this is another rogue judge who's gone rogue. As now, a federal judge has now blocked Trump's transgender military ban. That's right. It's absolutely true. As now a federal judge over there in Washington, D.C. has blocked the Trump administration's ban on transgender military service members, issuing preliminary injunction just today that halts the policy from taking effect. Well, U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes said over there that that the administration's policy likely violates, it's always likely, could be, perhaps, ask me tomorrow. Do we see these little buzz phrases of, it's right up there with familiar with the matter. That's probably the number one. Well, anyways, continuing. Well, the administration's policy likely violates the constitutional rights of transgender service members. I think, therefore, I am. Finding that the government failed to provide evidence that banning them serves a legitimate military purpose. In fact, that she said the policy was, quote, soaked in ominous and dripping with pretext. Wow, so sultry. She also said the ban at bottom invokes derogatory language to target vulnerable groups in violation of the Fifth Amendment. Never mind military rape that always goes unaccounted for, and just, throwing a piece of meat in a lion's den. Well, the case also brought by GLAD, G-L-A-D, them, and the National Center for Lesbianics Rights on behalf of 20 transgender people. Yes, that's right. People who were serving or who were preparing to serve in the armed forces. Now, the decision marks a significant setback for Trump's administration's efforts to remove transgender troops from service, which, they always get the free surgeries there. And Reyes concluded that the administration's policy implemented through the Executive Order 14183 likely violates the constitutional protections in order that the Department of Defense to maintain the pre-existing policies that allowed trannies to serve openly, judge says. So, there's always a tranny surprise every week, isn't there? That's what we seem to be learning around here. Continuing here, here's another story. We didn't really get to it when it immediately happened last week. Well, it's still ongoing, and that's the shutdown of the protest across the universities, but particularly Columbia University over there in Chicago. And recently there was a deportation of a student visa individual named Mahmoud Khalili. Well, now Mahmoud Khalili has been arrested. He's being detained in a immigration facility over there in Louisiana. He's now saying that he's, quote, I am a political prisoner. That's right. The Palestinian activist and green card holder speaks out from the Louisiana Immigration Detention Center for the first time. In his first public remarks since being detained by the federal immigration authorities, the Palestinian activist and recent Columbia graduate, Mr. Khalili, spoke out against the conditions facing immigrants in U.S. detention and said he was being targeted by the Trump administration for his political beliefs. Well, here's more of a quote from Mr. Khalili. I am a political prisoner. I am writing to you from a detention facility in Louisiana where I wake to cold mornings and spend long days bearing witness to the quiet injustices underway against a great many people precluded from the protections of the law. And I share a lot of that sentiment in so many ways. Well, Khalili, a permanent U.S. resident who helped lead a Columbia's University pro-Palestinian protest last spring, was arrested and detained over there in New York on March 8th by the federal immigration ICE over there, who reportedly said that they were acting on a State Department order to revoke his green card. Now, the Trump administration has said is targeting they're being blamed for targeting Mr. Khalili as part of a broader strategy to suppress dissent, warning that visa holders, green card carriers, and citizens alike will be targeted for their political beliefs. Yes, he also believes that his arrest was a direct consequence of exercising his right of freedom of speech as an advocate for free Palestine and the end of the genocide in Gaza. So, yeah, this is really setting a precedent in this country once again. The case could be made that, they're going to be infiltrated by communists. Well, that's a given. I mean, it's a university, but what's going to happen when it's our turn to have to protest like we did in the lockdowns 4 years ago? And when Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden simultaneously wanted to label people protesting the lockdowns as, quote, domestic terrorist. Did we see the blowback? Have you ever played chess before? It's no surprise. It's no surprise. And finally here, as we're going to get to this in the next segment after the break here, but now Trump, I get mixed up, but Roger Stone is now speaking. He's now speaking here. I'm going to tell you about it. Roger Stone is now speaking about the new release of the JFK files, and what he knows about it is a mystery that is ongoing still, continues. Well, let me tell you a bit more about it here. Well, now Roger Stone has now given an exclusive statement saying that President Trump told him what he saw in the files was, quote, so horrible. Quote, it's so horrible, I can't tell you, but someday you'll know, and that the world will be shocked by what the JFK files are truly about and what they're going to prove. Wow, I'm at the edge of my seat. Well, Trump's BFF, Roger Stone over there, released this, in the forthcoming JFK revelations will confirm what many have long suspected, that the CIA and other foreign intelligence groups coordinated to murder the 35th president. Yeah, so of course, they're going to have to say Israel was part of this now, but or are they going to redact that and just write in Iran's name? So this is going to be all the talk of the town, and I can't wait to see what it is. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this quick break. When we get back, we're going to get into all the new revelations with the JFK files. I actually have the link. We're going to just run through the whole gamut together with Jim Fetzer, who's going to hang with us over the break here. And you don't want to miss this. This is going to be, this could really prove a lot of things because a lot of people, the one magic bullet theory was their bread and butter. So we'll see. You're watching World at War. Stay tuned. Stand by. We'll be back after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
He sits down as he waits for his guests. His coffee does not help the time pass. Disappointment sets in. If he only had real deal coffee to indulge in, when its chocolate-covered almonds and maple syrup citrus finish, roasted right here in the US of A, life would only be that much better. real deal coffee. Because indulgence is just a cup away.
Got the worst cold a human being ever had. I've got a major presentation tomorrow. I've got to rest, and I'm out of NyQuil. I could take these, but I'd still be up all night coughing, which means I'd be a wreck for the presentation, which means I could get fired. What am I going to do?
Feeling like crap has become all too common these days. Everyone keeps asking that important question. You got ivermectin?
Got ivermectin?
Got ivermectin?
You got ivermectin.
Say goodbye to those illnesses that Big Pharma just can't cure. And say farewell and bon voyage to the parasitic forces preventing you from living. Real Deal Media is now powered up with the Wellness Center to bring you the medicines that matter. Go to www.twc.health.com/Dean Ryan. Make sure to use promo code Dean Ryan. Start truly living by taking back the control of your health. Got a painstaking headache, feeling under the weather. Think you have COVID-19 all over again? Well, we have an answer for you. That's ivermectin. Yeah, that's right. Presented by Real Deal Media in conjunction and powered by the Wellness Company. We want to give you the best, and you can get the best and nothing but with ivermectin. All you got to do is go to www.twc.health.com/Dean Ryan and make sure to use promo code Dean Ryan and take care of all of those ailments with medicines that matter. Yes, we certainly love that around here. Also, we want to invite you to become a visionaire with debonair, the iconic, not ironic, and a play from the Himalaya by becoming a night owl. Yes, we have some March Madness going on right now, in case you didn't know. Well, 35% off annuals, and you can come hang with us, get the exclusives, be in the know, don't be in the wrong, by going to www.realdealmedia.tv/memberships. That's right, and make sure to use promo code MADNESS, because that's madness indeed for 35% off, and certainly it goes to power this operation. Let's get back to World at War, shall we? Thank you. Thank you for that. Welcome back, everybody, to World at War. I am still Dean Ryan, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. Okay, we're going to get to everything JFK files now. And let's put things in perspective here, because Jim's ready to share his knowledge with us. And I think we're going to be learning some things here tonight. So let's welcome to the stage to get into it all. The one, the only, Jim, welcome back here. Let's get into the JFK files. Now, supposedly 2,000 new files have been discovered since Trump signed the executive order, and things out today. What do we know thus far, Jim? Because a lot of people said, well, we know everything, or do we?
Well, Dean, we know 95% of what actually happened independent of this release. And frankly, from what I've seen so far, there's really not much there. We have some memos about the FBI boss wearing dresses. But as I have reported here before, the mob had compromising photographs of Edgar, just as he had of the congressman in this case. Edgar performing a certain familiar sex act on his close personal aide, Clyde Tolson. And the mob to manage his behavior. There's a claim here that there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll, and most people would presume that that second shooter was James Files. But Files never mentions the limousine stop that makes that setup is shot if he'd actually taken it. it was removed from the home movies, including the Zapruder. But after Jack had been hit in the back and also shot in the throat, he was presumed to still be alive. And William Greer, the driver, pulled the limo to the left and to a halt to make sure he'd be killed. I know of 6 different parties who've seen what they describe as the, other film, without claiming it was the fully unedited, but it's clearly less edited. And when the limo stop takes place, and there were yellow painted stripes on the curbing as to where Greer should bring the limo to a halt. After that takes place, Jack is hit 3 different times in the back of the head. He slumped forward, Jack easing up. Then he's hit the right temple by the shot Files claims to have taken. And nearly simultaneously in the side of the head. I've reported on this on UNZ.com. A new book nails how JFK was taken out in Dallas. This is research of David Mantic on the medical evidence. But the fact is there were multiple shooters. Every one of those shots was fired by a different shooter. Each of the sponsors, and there were 8 altogether, including Lyndon himself, who was really the originator of the plot in Los Angeles in 1960 when he lost the nomination to JFK so he could accede to the presidency. His own hitman, Malcolm McWalsh, was firing from the book depository at John Conway in the mistaken belief it was Ralph Yarborough, liberal senator Lyndon hated.
Jim, let's talk about this now, because some of the unearthed documents are now beyond just suggesting that Marco Rubio and Oswald met before the assassination. The CIA memo says a source told the investigators that Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald met at a nightclub weeks before JFK was killed. The report says CIA knew about this claim but couldn't prove it. I guess these documents are now proving that. Also, we're now learning what we kind of already knew, that FBI informant claimed Ruby said he had to kill Oswald. FBI informant. Okay, so this kind of segues to, who are these players now? Who's Jack Ruby? Obviously, that's not his real name. It's Rubenstein. They want to implicate, for instance, here, and I'll get your take on this, Jim, if we continue the expedition here. British intelligence was called. They knew that this was going to happen. You had deep cover, Cuban spy network in Havana. They knew about this takedown. Here it is. British newspaper received an anonymous call 25 minutes before JFK was assassinated, warning of big news coming from the U.S. So that is quite stunning. Also, newly declassified CIA documents confirms U.S. officials closely monitored Lee Harvey Oswald's movement in Helsinki, Finland, which really highlights. It highlights. We'll get back to that one. It highlights that Harvey Oswald, who, when we tried to get a FOIA request on his tax returns, the FOIA office would not hand them over. So what does that say? Are we missing any other countries? Because they want to just say FBI, CIA, Cuba, and England.
Well, let me tell you several things that aren't being emphasized here, but were in part in an earlier release. They make a lot out of Oswald allegedly having gone to the Cuban embassy in Mexico City to obtain a visa to travel to the Soviet Union from Cuba. But it's stamped right on his passport, not valid for transport to Cuba. You couldn't use that passport, so that was all rubbish. Larry Ramirez revealed it. It was an elaborate charade run by the CIA. They have photographs and audio recordings that are of a person claiming to be Lee Oswald, but who is clearly not. Turns out that 3 of the CIA assets in Mexico were presidents of Mexico. So this is really stunning stuff. Now, we've long known, Jim Mars explained this many years ago in Crossfire, which was one of the principal sources for Oliver Stone's magisterial JFK, that Lee was frequently in Jack Ruby's club, the Carousel Club. In fact, I think Beverly Oliver In fact, it was there in the grass opposite the grassy knoll with a camera filming the assassination, said she was introduced by Jack Ruby to his friend Lee Oswald. And I think he said of Oswald, he was CIA. Now, Lee actually was a big fan of that show, I Led Three Lives, Herb Philbrick, and he seemed to have led something like it. He appears to have been recruited by CIA at the recruit depot in San Diego. He was stationed at the most secure base at Atsugi, home of the overflights with the U-2s, so he knew the altitude. The Soviets didn't, so they were unable to shoot it down, but he performed a fake defection at the behest of the CIA to provide that information.
Very true.
Yeah, they were going to have a summit between Eisenhower and Khrushchev, and Khrushchev accused Eisenhower of spying on the Soviet Union, which he denied, and then they paraded the pilot out, Francis Gary Powers and parts of the U-2. So the summit that was supposed to reduce world tensions actually was aborted or increased. When he returned to the U.S., he was not treated as a traitor. He was given money by a CIA front organization to relocate. He went down to New Orleans while Marina went to Dallas at the home of the Paynes, where they were assets of the CIA. She would later get him the job at a book depository to set him up to be the patsy for the assassination, whereas he had meanwhile in New Orleans been sheep-dipped to be portrayed as a pro-Castro and communist sympathizer, when he was none of the above. You mentioned the W-2 forms. They didn't want to release because, in addition, Lee was an informant for the FBI. He was getting $200 a month for informing the FBI, and it was clear on his W-2s, so they wouldn't release him. Muted. Dean, you're muted.
Jim, we're having some technical issues, audio, because we're too close to the truth here, Jim. I think that's what the case is. Look at this one right here. This is Sir Charles, Australian Security Intelligence Organization. They knew about it. And it goes on and on and on. We'll have to do a deeper dive on it, but I want to, before we close this segment, I want to share this as well. This is coming out of the USA Today publication, and many of them, they're saying that not all the files were released. Get this. We were promised, but they're saying not all the documents were posted online today at all. The National Archives and Records Administration, the keeper of documents, they're saying they've released as much as they could, but they're going to continue to be digitized. They will be posted to this page. I wonder what they're holding back. In fact, sticking with the theme of Candace Owens, who's really on this one, I'll get your take afterwards. Let's check this out, because could AIPAC be at play?
They are the only country that's allowed to lobby Americans. Like, everyone else has to register as a foreign agent and under FARA.
Like with AIPAC or whatever?
Yeah, so AIPAC, the backstory, by the way, before JFK got shot, he was fighting AIPAC. They were previously called, I'm blanking on this, you can look it up. And he was literally saying you have to register under the Foreign Act.
Is that true? Let's look it up.
1000% true, and you should look it up. We should fact check that live. He was fighting with what is today known as AIPAC. Was renamed AZCPA. I don't know what that stood for.
In 1959, AZCPA was renamed AIPAC, and American Israel Public Affairs Committee, reflecting a broader membership and mission.
Yeah. So JFK told them that they had to register under FARA, and so American Zionist Council. That's exactly what it was called.
Okay, American Zionist Council was a pro-Israel lobby in the United States, founded in 1949. It represented 9 nationwide Zionist organizations in matters related.
See at the bottom there, in 1962, President. Look at the last paragraph. In 1962,
President John F. Kennedy and his brother Bobby, as the U.S. Attorney General, forced the AZC to register as a foreign agent. In doing so, they were barred from making monetary contributions to U.S. officials. Who was barred? AZC.
Yeah, so AIPAC, for lack of a better term, they were called AZC back then, but continued to send out.
So, Jim, that's a big factor in this whole story. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, sure. That's correct. And in addition, he was at loggerheads with Ben-Gurion, David Ben-Gurion. It was a founder and the first prime minister of Israel. who wanted to develop nuclear weapons, but Jack thought it would set off a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, which he opposed. Ben Gurion apparently resigned in disgust after assigning the Mossad to participate in the assassination. But they put up a shooter was only one of 8 shooters I've been able to identify in Dealey Plaza. So we had a CIA shooter, we had a Joint Chiefs shooter, we had an anti-Castro shooter, we had a mafia shooter, we had a Fed shooter, a Texas oil bin shooter, an Israeli shooter, and a Lyndon Baines Johnson shooter. Each of them put up their own. I can identify their name, rank, serial number, the shots they took, the effect they had for all 7 of the 8. The one not is the Fed shooter. It was on the grass opposite the grassy knoll. There's a tree there. You wouldn't think that would be sufficient for a shooter to conceal, but I have seen photographs of 2 different experts of him standing there with a rifle, not the same photographs. He was there. He's the only one I have been unable as yet to identify.
Well, Jim, due to time constraints and interruptions from outside forces in a near fisticuffs I just got into, kind of in a closing matter here, we're going to have to shut everything down prematurely, but you want to give a final thought on this, Jim, as the world has been waiting for these documents. Can we expect more? What's the Bobby documents and Martin Luther King? What is that going to be?
Well, I was interviewed in advance about what to expect, and I said the most important file they're holding back is for George Joanides, who was a CIA PSYOPs guy for both JFK and for RFK. Just remember, E. Howard Hunt, who was not the third of the tramps, but was in Dealey Plaza, gave the chain of command to his son, St. John, when he thought he was on his deathbed. He actually survived. But he said the chain of command went from Lyndon to Cord Meyer, who was in charge of secret ops for the CIA, to David Atlee Phillips, Western Hemisphere CIA, to William Harvey, Assassination Worldwide, to David Sanchez Morales for Dallas. And I think that's quite right. I mean, Hunt was in a position to know. I've spoken with St. John about it, and my own research confirms it. You're muted again, Dean.
Thank you, Jim. It's been that kind of night. If you want to see more of this, but a higher caliber, you can catch Jim Fetzer 8 days a week on the RBN network over there. Yeah, he's done a fine job. But if you want to see more of this unholy union here, check out, come and join us tomorrow night for the 5 years in the making. Yes, it is 5 years in and around the sun. You don't want to miss the anniversary show tomorrow night. I can't wait for that one. And yeah, look at Jim. He's trying to jump out and catch the dove. I don't know why. So on that note, everybody, I have to get out of here. And so does Jim. We'll be back tomorrow night for something special. So for Jim Fetzer and everyone else here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan saying thank you for sharing a bit of your night. Until next time, always remember, stay tuned and stay awake. And don't take the APAC money. Never take it.
Look around at a beautiful life in the upside down.